Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited for this conversation about one of my passions, live sports and advertising. I'd love if we could kick off with you two quickly introducing yourselves again and tell me what your Super Bowl winner prediction is. We're in Vegas, it's almost the Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to take home the trophy this year?
So my name is Gina Finster. I'm with Walmart Connect, and I have the great pleasure of leading all of our ad partnerships, which means our agency, great media partnerships, and tech partnerships as well. And I'm going to be super lame, but I actually don't follow football, so I don't even know who's in it. So yeah, that'll be my Super Bowl prediction. I don't even know.
So hi, Gina Reduto. I lead strategy for the ad sales and partnership division at NBCUniversal. This is like a little bit controversial. I'm going to go Eagles because I went to school there. I knew that was going to get a lot of boos, but yeah, that's what I would say.
And I appreciate your honesty and transparency there. But clearly you're comfortable talking about live sports because that's our
100%,
conversation
yes.
today. And kick it off, I'd love to start like big picture into, we know, I know again, you don't follow football, but I follow a lot. I spend a lot of time watching it, right? I'm really tuned in. And that's not necessarily new, but I'm wondering if you could speak to the fact that like why live sports today is still an important place to advertise in. If you want to kick us off, Taya.
Yeah, so from our standpoint for Walmart Connect, I mean, we know the great reach that live sports has, and what we're looking to do is reach Walmart shoppers wherever they are. We reach 150 million US shoppers in our stores, online in our app every single day, but we know that there's incremental reach in the wonderful live sports at NBCU and the premium content that they have, and we think it's super important to be able to reach them there, and then also be able to close the loop and understand, like, is it actually delivering for brands? So that's what we were so excited about, to have the great opportunity to partner with NBCU and deliver that great experience for the brands.
And Gina, you have an incredible portfolio, right? You have the Super Bowl, you'll have the Olympics coming up, right? So a lot of different moments. But walk me through why that's important to NBCU as a company to have so much live sports rights, and also how that fits into the advertiser goal.
Yeah, I think, live sports is unique because it has obviously incredible built-in fandom, but I think that fandom itself is unique, right? If you think about the way that people watch sports, right? They watch it live, right? It's an appointment, it's an event, right? 94% of sports is watched live. I think the other thing is it's communal, right? You want to watch it with someone else. You want to partake in the conversation around it. It has, 22% higher co-viewing than any other content. And I think the other thing is, like, because you're tuning in, you're watching it live, you're watching it with others, there's higher levels of attention in sports, right? We see sports has 23% higher attention than any other content. And those things together are sort of the winning equation for advertisers, right? And so I think that's why it's so important to us. It brings in the consumer, they're super engaged, which obviously translates to impact for our partners.
Agreed on that, powerful of the communal experience. And speaking of partners, the reason we're here today is because you guys have an interesting partnership. So I'm wondering if we can zoom in on what that exactly looks like and also like how it came to be. Gina, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, I think, both of us, I think, are very committed to sort of delivering on our mutual customers' asks. And one of the things that had come up was, Walmart has this incredible stature and presence as the #1 retailer. And we sort of sit in this position where we have this incredible portfolio of sports. There are challenges in our industry around how we create accountability and transparency. And so this partnership was really meant to deliver on, and really the ask from our clients of, if you're a marketer who sells product at Walmart or finds signal in Walmart shopper data, we want to be able to effectively show you that your investment in live sports is actually moving product off the shelves at Walmart. And so from there, it was sort of just, how do we put all of the product and tools and capabilities in place to actually make that a reality?
Yeah, and I think what I couldn't agree more with what Gina said, and what I love is we've continued to build upon it. So we started with an initial test, and now what we've given is additional opportunity for advertisers and brands to get more frequent reporting while they're going through their buys. So it's a continued partnership that we've carried through.
Yeah, I mean, measurement is something that I hear constantly from marketers is always a tricky problem, and they want more of that real-time speed. So can you walk me through how that's possible? And again, in terms of what you're providing, it seems like you're outcomes driven on it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about one of our results. It's actually Sensodyne right now. They're mid-flight, so we're still sort of looking at what's happening. But we're looking across a couple different indicators. So one of the things looking at is awareness. And so even there for ad likability, I think it's up like 200% for what they're seeing in sports. For consideration, it's up. Like from a product details page to add to cart, it's 60% increase. And even to transactions, so lower funnel, they're up there as well with like a 328 ROAS, or return on ad spend, and 5.5% transaction rate. So across all of the different metrics, what we're able to do is connect from that seeing the ad all the way through to the actual conversion on Walmart, and deliver and actually tell brands, is this converting for you, which I think is fantastic.
I appreciate that example, and I was actually curious about if you can work with partners mid-flight. You just shared one that's happening right now. How is that possible, I guess, is what I'm wondering. Like, walk me through, without getting too wonky and technical, though I think we're with the right audience, is how, what are the technical capabilities of happening behind the scenes that, again, makes it possible to work with partners mid-flight?
Yeah, I mean, we have a clean room set up with Walmart, right? And I think, honestly, it's been sort of a mutual effort amongst our product teams, candidly, really, really committing to this, understanding, Deanna touched on this, but this idea of multiple KPIs in full funnel, right? I think that requires the extra work, but we thought it was worth it because I think, a single KPI can sort of orient you and help you optimize around a tactic. But I think multiple KPIs can help you with your entire strategy and hopefully impact a larger part of your business. And so it's constant, collaboration across the teams, but really the core functionality is the clean room.
Amazing. And I'm glad, again, we're in an audience where I don't have to explain what that means. One thing I'm curious about is the creative side of this. In terms of when you're working with, and I don't know if you can speak to that Sensodyne partnership again, but examples of, with this type of partnership, is it affecting the creative that advertisers are using in the campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think both of us start really from a customer first perspective, and we're using our customer insights to help and drive and ensure that we're preserving that fan first experience, that we're not interrupting it. We sit on a ton of insights from all of our access to America across what are they purchasing, their shopper behavior, and use that to inform what is their experience. So now that we're able to get those mid-flight information, we're able to then tweak it and make sure that brands are able to help optimize throughout the campaign.
Yeah, I totally agree. The only thing I'd add that I think we're starting to see more and more is this idea of contextual relevance, right? And I think when we can pair everything we're doing on the targeting and measurement side and really create the connection with the consumer, but employ contextual creative, that's really powerful. And we've done some of that. We've done things like, infusing our talent that's native to our content into the brand's creative, right? And there's a ton more opportunity to do that. We've even done things like deployed branded product that's specific to a team playing on any given night, right? Which, if you think about that, for the fans of those teams in those cities, is tremendous. And when you do those types of activations and you employ contextual relevance, you see it play out, right? Because you're reflecting back what the consumer is passionate about. And like on average with campaigns like these, we see up to 48% lifts in brand memorability. You see double the shoppable activity, right? But again, it's because you're creating that connection with the consumer.
Yeah, that's so powerful in terms of not only the personalization aspect, but sometimes it's like personalization, you're targeting to an individual and you're losing the fan experience, the actual what's happening. But you said contextual is also key to what you're doing. In terms of results, I know you shared the Sensodyne example. I'm wondering if there's any other specific ones you can share about what you're seeing so far in the partnership.
I can share one from a little while back, and I actually think this is an interesting one because it's sort of a different lens. We talked about the importance of targeting. We talked about sort of leaning into the engagement and the unique fandom of sports. I think the other thing that we found to be really powerful is sort of like tapping into the consumer mindset. And we have a good example of this from last Thanksgiving, right? And if you think about Thanksgiving, I think we're all sort of primed for Black Friday. Everybody's deal hunting. And we ran a campaign again across live sports. We employed our Shop the Pod and text to shop functionality. And the creative itself was a deal that was time bound, right? And so the consumer seeing that deal knows they have a limited amount of time to activate, right? They're probably deal hunting in their outside of watching content. And again, with that campaign, we saw incredible results, right? 4 times return on ad spend, 5 times the retail benchmark in terms of scan rate. And yes, it was because the product was engaging. Yes, it was because the ad innovations were like, latest and greatest. But I think it was really because we sort of capitalized on what we knew about the consumer mindset and sort of the things that were top of mind for them. So things like that, I think, are the things that allow us to really drive outsized impact.
And what I'll say is, just building upon that more broadly for us, anytime you add connected TV and streaming, and this is for both streaming and linear. I don't think we've talked about that, but it's pretty impressive that you're able to do this across both of them. You see like a 28% increase in sales just by adding connected TV to your buys on Walmart. And so that sort of omni-channel experience and buy is really, really important for the brands to take advantage of, and allows you to have much better performance.
I appreciate that clarification of linear and streaming, because I think that is something that is clearly so valuable, because you think about ad innovations and being so data forward, it just being about streaming. But no, this partnership goes across both. With what you shared, I know you spoke earlier about KPIs. Do you remember that example, like what the brand really wanted out of it, what they were focused on, like why they pursued it back then?
In terms of the Thanksgiving Day example, yeah, I think they were trying, it's funny because sometimes I think about, we talk about commerce in terms of just sales, but I think there's also a bigger picture in terms of driving action and engagement. And so that 5 times the retail benchmark was what they were really seeking, and they found really powerful.
Well, I'm going to ask a few more questions, but I also wanted to leave time for audience Q&A if anyone has a question. So start thinking. In terms of what's next in this space, clearly, as we all talked about, live sports is still something really aren't engaging in. But is there any different consumer behaviors when it comes to consuming live sports that you all are paying attention to that is changing in terms of how you guys are operating in this partnership and beyond?
I mean, I'd say connected commerce is like going to continue. It's brought accountability for brands. They are able to see what's working, what's not. And as long as we can preserve and keep the fan first experience, this will continue to move forward, not only in sports, but I think in other immersive experiences. So I think that's something that we're really excited about continuing this partnership on, and continuing to bring to brands moving forward.
Yeah, one of the things we look at a lot is sort of the variety of preferences in terms of how people consume content, right? And sort of the means and the ways and how they interact with content. And so I think as we think about what's next, I'm excited for a world where we can lean into automation, right? If you think about our superpower as a content publisher is like these really custom executions that are obviously very labor intensive. But in a world where we can automate, the branded content, the creative, and even sort of get to a place of sophistication with the targeting, we can drive higher and higher levels of personalization, and personalization in a way that's not at all intrusive, but actually only additive in terms of the consumer experience. So I think that's sort of how we see the next frontier.
Yeah, makes sense. AI and automation would be the answer there. And one thing, obviously, right now this partnership is on live sports, but I'm wondering if you see it extending beyond that, and how and what that really looks like. Will it actually change operationally behind the scenes, in front of the scenes?
I could start, and then it's funny. We were talking about this the other day. I actually think we even have untapped potential in sports still, right? If you think about NBC, we recently added the MLB and this idea that we'll have 49 Sundays of sports a year. And if you think about Sundays as the day that we all sort of plan for our week, think about everything that's upcoming, you're probably going to go shopping, right? And sort of that natural synergy with Walmart. So I think there's a ton more potential there. But we talked about sports through the lens of fandoms, and when we look across NBC, right, we'll reach 286 million people this year, and it's because of sports, but it's actually because of all of our other fandoms too, right? I don't know a more intense fan than a Bravo fan. The phenomenon that was Love Island this summer, right? It was the #1 streaming show. Traders upcoming. So I think, going back to where we started, we have the infrastructure and sort of the best practices in place. It's now just sort of like, how do we take that and extend it to all these other fandoms?
The only other thing I'd add there is we haven't talked a lot about our Vizio acquisition, but that's an untapped potential that I think we still have that extension. Vizio is the fastest selling OS. It's now we have our own brand, as well. It's as of December exclusively sold at Walmart. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to extend these opportunities on the home screen there on Vizio, as well as streaming as well. So lots to come there too that we haven't frankly tapped into yet.
That's amazing. And obviously glad you brought up Love Island. I remember I watched the finale here in Vegas and it was the perfect place to be. Well, again, I said I wanted to leave time for audience questions. Do we have any?
Hi, I'm Ashley Silver from Cross Media. My question is, how do you see with sports leaning into social where the younger generations are more into clips and highlights, the partnership extending into social and leveraging that outside of just streaming only?
Well, I think we both have great partnerships with social networks. We announced with Meta and Omnicom a relationship there as well, leveraging influencers. And so I think it's taking what we've built here and extending it there further. That's probably one of the places that we didn't talk about of where we can further extend. Gina talked about a little bit the extension of including athletes and some of those places. So I think that's a natural way to make it more contextually relevant and extend there. So I think those are some of the places that we can go forward.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add is, we're hyper focused on that and really thinking about what are the formats and ways of consuming that younger audiences love, right? And so how do we think about vertical video, even in terms of sports? And that's a huge initiative for us. How do we think about things like mobile gaming, right? And as we sort of get into those spaces, there's just more natural extension into social.
And I was chatting with your colleague Christina earlier where she mentioned the creator collective that you guys have going on when it comes to the Olympics and the Super Bowl, I believe.
Yes.
Do you mind explaining what that is?
Yeah, it's essentially exactly what it sounds like, right? A group of influencers who will be a part of the Olympics and sort of taking the Olympics and putting it through the lens of their own content and distributing it.
Do we have any other questions? Awesome. Well, I guess I will ask one more then. In terms of one thing I think we talked about measurement, but we didn't really talk enough about data privacy things. Is there anything specific you want to mention? You talked about using clean rooms. Is there anything that people in the audience should keep in mind in terms of how you're addressing that?
I mean, I think we're both incredibly sensitive to our data, and so we're very mindful of it and ensuring that we protect our unique value prop. From a Walmart perspective, we believe that is our secret sauce, and so that's not something that we're looking to share for the brands or for ourselves. But we do want to make sure that it's performant and that we're able to close the loop. And so leveraging great technology that we now have available affords us the opportunity to do these great things together while still protecting the privacy and leaning into those things.
Totally agree. I mean, we're exact same stance, and we're hyper focused on that too. So agree.
Well, thank you guys for the great conversation, and thanks everyone for listening.
Have a great day.
Thanks.